started. Welcome everyone to the first episode of Gone Remote presented by Validity. I'm your host, Meagan DeMenna, Senior Marketing Manager here at Validity, and today's topic is working moms. Today I have with me Sarah Imarata, Director of Marketing and Sales Effectiveness at Global Jet Capital, Erika, Irby, Director of VAR Distribution Programs at Veeam Software, Lauren Bailey, Founder and President of Factor 8 and #Girls Club, Courtney Craig, Senior Manager of Customer Marketing at GoDaddy, and Melissa Murillo, Senior Manager of Sales Development here at Validity. Thanks, ladies, for being here. Why don't we just kick things off and start talking about what life was like before COVID-19? What did your daily, for example, I am a full-time remote person, so this is different, but not much different. So Melissa, why don't we start with you?
So life is flipped on its head, at least for me. I would go into the office every day between 8 and 9. I would leave the office approximately 6:30 each night. I had an hour commute each way. I would pick my daughter up from either my mom's house or her dad's house, come home, do homework, do bedtime routine. Suddenly I'm thrust into a world where I am working from home. She is here with me full time. This week we just started school, so that is now thrown into the mix. So it's been very interesting trying to balance working, helping her with her schoolwork, helping her with everything as I'm trying to manage meetings. So she's definitely made more than one cameo into several of my Zoom calls, and at times not appropriate. So it's been an interesting transition, to say the least.
Perfect. Yep. I've definitely had some awesome cameos myself of my 6-year-old particularly. Sarah, why don't you tell us a little about what work life used to be like?
Sure, absolutely. So every morning about 7:15, I actually drove my daughter to school, so would head into the office fairly early. And, our office itself is very office-centric. We don't have a lot of folks who work remote, even though we do have a few. So everyone's in the office, everyone's on the calls together. So the transition has been significant because, one, we don't have that wake-up call. Two, we have cameos from other people, just like Melissa does. This is Maverick. It feels off and a little strange because you don't have the things that are usually driving that easy routine. It's like, wait, hold on, what's the trigger for my next part of the day? So it's been a little challenging, as it sure is for all of y'all.
That's a great point, those trigger points. They're like those triggers. Erika, why don't you dive in?
Yeah, I totally agree with the triggers. I also work from home full time, so that in that sense, that hasn't been a huge change. But with my kids here and my husband here full time, that structure is gone. So I definitely, find myself now, like Melissa was saying with school, I have to kind of schedule in with my work day when to go help them with school. This sounds silly, but a big thing for me is lunchtime because when I am by myself, I can work from morning until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a cup of coffee just because that's kind of what I'm used to. But now with the kids, they seem to eat 14 times a day and I actually have to make them like a legit lunch and I have to stop and go and, put together a sandwich or, something. Otherwise they just eat through my pantry. So that has been one of the biggest, I think changes is just like what Sarah was saying with the triggers is just that structure has really just been kind of gone out the window.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but my kids don't understand that I can't get to them at that exact moment. So they'll come over, yes. I'm hungry. Courtney, why don't you tell us a little bit about your day?
So starting with prior, right?
Prior,
as compared to now. So I was in the office mostly in and out previously to COVID. And I liked that. I'm someone who kind of needs to go in to have that structure. And now working from home, I have a 2-year-old here. You might have just heard her. And we're potty training. So during all this, so it seems like an opportune time, but also a bad time for calls when, you know, a little one has to go to the bathroom and they can't go by themselves right that second when you're on a call. So that's happened to me twice yesterday on meetings where I had to stop and take a potty break for my 2-year-old. So that's been interesting, but it's also been great to see how flexible and understanding everyone is. I think it's, you know, changed our work environment almost for the better, at least at my company.
Awesome. All right, finally, but not least, Lauren.
Yeah, so I've been work from home for about 15 years. I have worked from home with my husband, both of us in the same company, one of them, for 5 years. So the difference for us is the addition of the kiddos at home. My boys are 7 and 8 in second and third grade. So they do finally understand that when the doors close, they're not allowed to come in, which is fantastic. Before we started school structure, they thought life was just heaven, right? It's like Fortnite all the time. iPad babysitter has been in full effect. Last week, we started to put a little more structure in, and that made a big difference for us. So I was on mom time from, 6:30 in the morning until 9, and then he would be on from like 12 to 1:30, and then I'd be back on from 3 to 4. That worked for about a day. And then, really important calls come in to overlap. And that part's actually been nice because we're such good partners that we just trade off. I had an insane week and he covered 80% of mom and dad time. Remote school is happening in the background right now. And I don't know about you ladies, but it drives me crazy that with school, you get a day's notice for something, right? Like, oh, I don't have any meetings scheduled at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, right? That's so frustrating to me. We'll see. They may wind up missing that every once in a while. So we're doing our best. I don't think we're killing it at any of it. And I would say the biggest difference for me is just the all the time on stress. Right? It's not like I'm just going to run in and get something to eat. It is. I've got to make the food and the dishes are piled up and the. So I find myself drinking a lot.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask the next question is, what's your biggest challenge? You ladies have sort of identified each different challenge. So how do you divorce yourself from, I guess maybe not divorce yourself, that's probably not the best way to say it, but how do you find the balance when you're on 24/7 and you cannot leave? I mean, you can go take a walk, but how do you find that balance?
Even when you're taking a walk, it's like, okay, well, I really need some peace and quiet, but my kids need to go outside. The dogs have been cooped up. Like one of the biggest gifts I ever give myself, which isn't often enough, is a walk by myself, right? Because then it's like the guilt of all the eyes looking at you if you're going out the door. My only other tip I've got is when I am doing, 300 things at once, I'll put an audiobook on. That like big headphones and just kind of disappear into a story for 30 minutes while cooking, cleaning, organizing, whatever else it may be. It's a tiny gift I give myself. And then of course the bottle of wine at 6 o'clock.
So what's your audiobook? I have to ask.
All right, I'm way into this series right now. I should give you some BS answer about how it's all about self-development, and it's not. It's a fictional series by J.D. Robb. It's a mystery murder series that's set in the future. And you know how you find characters that you really like and like they're your friends?
Yeah.
So Eve Dallas needs me. If I don't listen, nothing works. She misses me, I miss her. So I get that girlfriend time.
Oh, that's amazing. So what other tips and advice do we have to find mom time? And I feel that mom guilt too. It's like those eyes look at you.
Yeah.
But you gotta find it.
Something weird that I've experienced is, like we said, the dishes are piling up, the laundry is piling up. And I'm like, where is this all coming from? And for some reason, I'm like, I need to do it. I'm not, don't get me wrong, but I have that programmed into my brain that I'm failing because I'm not getting this all done. But, we as leaders and in sales, one of the biggest things we preach is don't be afraid to fail. And we have to kind of adopt that at home. Like, it's okay to have like laundry piled up. That doesn't make us crappy moms. It makes us just a little tired. So it's not easy to do, but just say no. I'm not doing your laundry. P.S. This is a great time to teach your child how to do laundry. And if they mess it up, too bad. They're gonna have to wear dirty clothes for the rest of the week. I don't care.
My kids are laundry sorting masters now. They can sort laundry like crazy. Yeah, we are amping up the chores.
Great, great. So I mean, it's easy to say, hard to do, but just, you know, realizing that it's really makes a difference. That it's okay to say no or ask for help from everyone in the house.
Yeah. And do you ladies feel this too? I feel like maybe it's because I'm just, well, I don't know if I'm home more, but it feels like everything is piling up faster. And I know the dishes are piling up faster because there's more people at home, but it's not, it's not fair to use this word fair, but it's not fair that everyone's home, you don't have enough time, and things are just getting more and more out of control.
Yeah.
It's just...
Well, I don't know if you have more time though, and I've heard that argument like, oh, now that you're at home and you have more time, but I'm not sure exactly that you do because, you know, these times we were a very busy family. We had Boy Scouts and soccer and track, and we had all these things in a very structured setup. So now it's very chaotic because we don't have that structure. And one thing I'm trying to do is actually implement structure. But this free time that I thought we had just kind of gets eaten up by other things. And a lot of it is, you know, during the day I pull myself away from work so that I can help with school. And then in the evening, I'm having to make up that work time. And my job is global, so I was already on the phone sometimes at 8 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock in the morning to accommodate other time zones. And now I feel like that's kind of like stretching out. But one thing I have noticed is I have left some of the dishes in the sink, and my husband, who is definitely a good partner, he eventually will come around and start to do that. I've also used paper plates, which I think is really wasteful, but at least it helps my kids they can throw that away, you know, and they can at least put their fork in the dishwasher, you know, and so that has kind of helped us a little bit. And in terms of laundry, I know this sounds like terrible, but I tell my kids, you're not going anywhere, so you're going to wear the same pair of clothes like 47 times because there's just no need, you know, to have all these clothes. And so thankfully the laundry has been smaller because it's literally just like some underwear, you know. And so that has definitely helped. But one thing I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on, there was a question about what is one of the most difficult things. We all talked about structure. One of the most difficult things for me is trying to get my kids to understand the gravity of this situation so that they themselves can, you know, step up as they need to. And they're 9 and 12, so I'm not saying that they need to suddenly, you know, be adults or anything, but nonetheless, you know, they need to understand why this is a big deal, and so they can do their part to help. But at the same time, you know, I don't want to traumatize them and scare them, but you know, I want them to take it seriously. My younger son especially has asthma, and so we are being, I think, extra cautious with the quarantining or isolating because I'm very nervous about him in particular. And so I don't want to scare them, but at the same time, I want them to be have a bit of maturity as much as they can for their age and understanding, and so they can also help out around the house and feel like they need to do that we're a team. I don't know if you have
That's
tips
a good one, Erika. I'll jump in on that. Mine are younger than yours, and they've already, like, I almost have the opposite approach because what news leaks through to them, it's so fear-based.
Yeah.
Right? When I talked about the kids going with me to the grocery store, I don't want to get sick. Now that might have been because they didn't want to get off their iPad, but we try to temper it a little bit, and
Yeah.
we do bring it into everyday life, but not in a way that's scary. So for instance, I don't like this bread. Well, sweetheart, there's not a lot of bread in the grocery store, and we're not wasting right now. This is a really important time for us to all step up, and
Right.
sorry, there isn't another choice for that. Or no, we can't do that because it's closed, and it's a big deal that we stay safe, or making sure we really wash for 20 seconds and doing that several times a day. So we show them their responsibility in it, and we talk a little bit about how it's never happened before and it's a big deal. But then we sort of, I don't want to say downplay, but we talk about the fact that, listen, most kids are not getting very sick and you're safe. So the idea is it's a big deal and I need to be responsible, but I'm safe. And that's the kind of where we like to temper it. How about you guys?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of conflicting information, as we all know, out there. So what I'm sharing with my 11-year-old daughter, so I can relate to that age group, certainly, Erika, is that whatever my truth is, so what I'm feeling. And I'm probably along the lines of, I want to keep her safe. She probably is a little less at risk because she doesn't have asthma or something, but I don't want to downplay that she couldn't, or that other people, she could be carrying it and someone else could get it. But that being said, we kind of sat down together as a family and said, this is what this means. Have you ever been out of school before? Like for this long, can you believe it? And that really is resonating with her because she's not being able to interact with her friends, outside of the social, arenas they are given. And so we talked about what that meant and what that meant from working from home and what can she do to contribute. And she hears it and she understands it. The practicing of it, I think we're still working on. And there's been a couple groundings. There's been a couple electronics that have been taken away. When you say about the snacks and the bread, Lauren, like she was like, I want my yogurt. I'm like, there's no yogurt in the grocery store. Not your Danable strawberry kiwi flavor, at least. But, it's taking her a minute to really understand the appreciation and the sacrifice that all of us are making. And man, I mean, can you believe that we, as negative as this thing is, this is something that every single person in this country, in this world, especially mothers, can relate to the challenges. I mean, we don't get to understand each other that well, usually. So this has been certainly difficult. But.
Yeah, agreed. No, that's great stuff. Great stuff. And we do try to, have that balance and I love the points about, trying to get them to see why it's happening, but without making it scary. And, we do try to do that. And I have tried to keep some of their activities, that we normally did. For example, we have a guitar lesson and it's just this one guy and we do still have him come out. We keep them like far apart and we're like disinfecting guitars like crazy, but nonetheless, it's a little bit of normalcy for them. And so I try to keep like some things like that, try not to freak out, but at the same time, I want them to, especially the 12-year-old, I think he's old enough to understand it a little bit and then have a little more responsibility, especially when it comes to his own schooling, because I just can't be there over his shoulder, 8 hours a day.
And, we've been doing the social distancing, but my family is here local. My parents and my grandmother, they're all living together, and my grandmother is 91. And both of my parents are at that age. And so where I try to keep Lydia from living in fear, I do want to drill home that your Nana, your Mimi and Papa are at risk. So, for that very reason, I still want to be able to see them. We are basically isolating, like we're not going anywhere so that we still can. So even last night going to the grocery store, it was like, I got frustrated with her and I was like, keep your hands away from your face, because she just, it's habitual for her. So I've really tried to drill home, you're okay, you're safe, but we're doing it for the people we love. We're taking all these precautions for them, hoping that she can kind of teach her to get out of self a little bit too.
Yeah.
I'm hearing so many amazing lessons, like from each of you, that you're teaching your kids right now. I'm in a little bit of a different situation because my daughter's not quite old enough to understand what's going on. All she understands is that she can't go and do as many things as we used to, and she's getting stir crazy and wants to play outside and wants to touch her face and wants to hug the neighbor kids. And so I've been trying to teach her a little bit about what germs are. Like, okay, you're 2.5, you can learn what a germ is. And so I've been explaining it as, some people are sick right now and we don't want to hug them or interact with them because we might get sick. And so trying to understand the concept of a germ, I've actually found some really good videos online for toddlers that explain it. So that's the only thing we've been doing. in terms of trying to help our daughter understand what's going on. But I think if she was older, that's what you guys are saying is inspiring to me, because like just hearing all of you talk about it, those are invaluable lessons that I feel like a lot of kids don't have an opportunity to learn how to contribute to society, or how to keep others around them healthy, especially at a young age. But you've each found a way for their appropriate age to teach them that lesson, which is really cool.
Courtney, I have to tell you guys just one quick little story that I thought was so cute. This was last Friday. I was heading into Walmart grocery shopping with my 7-year-old Cameron. We split, right? And then Daddy and I are texting like, I found hot dogs. Did you find corn? And on our way in, they had seen, hi, are those Mickey Mouse ears?
Oh, hi. Yeah.
Look at that.
He says Mickey Mouse. She can't hear you guys because I have my earbuds in.
Mickey Mouse. That's great.
See her? She's talking right now. She's telling us a story.
I'm telling a story. So Cameron and I are heading into Walmart, and they had seen some TikTok video about, fist fights in Walmart over toilet paper. And so it was kind of easy for me to say to him, all right, so this is going to be a little different. Here are the rules, right? Number one, we're going to stay safe. You can't wander off, right? Number two, we have to be careful about the germs and what we're touching. And number three, our job is to spread joy, because people are worried right now. And that little boy, I can't tell you how many people he lit up while he was there. Hi, can I get that for you? What a pretty shirt. It's nice to see you. He just left a stream of sunshine on every aisle at Walmart. And it was so, so cool. So he inspired me. I wanted to share that one with you guys.
I love that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was actually thinking that because, I have a 6-year-old, so he's losing teeth, so his hands are always in his mouth. But how do you teach them how to give back and participate? But that's an excellent example of just being out when you are out in the grocery store. Hopefully that's the only place, in the pharmacy. Just spreading that joy and just being as positive as you can. And then with my 6-year-old, I've had him do a couple of FaceTimes with his classmates. So he doesn't get too stir crazy, but that's a great opportunity for him at least to find that normalcy again, to kind of go back to, okay, my friends are still there and they can still play together and have fun. So we've seen some fun times with that.
Megan, the tooth fairy did not make it to our house last Thursday, and we figured it probably was because of the coronavirus. So that kind of worked out. Whoops. But there was the impact, right? Like, that was personal. We felt that one. No, it really does affect people.
Our CEO said, one of our colleagues had told him, it's not social distancing, it's physical distancing. And I think that's one of the things we have to remember, because there's so many tools out there that can allow us to continue to socialize. One thing that my daughter and her friends are doing is Netflix actually has a Chrome plugin now I think it's called Netflix Party. They can watch, not Tiger King, because that's not appropriate for young kids, but they can watch Netflix shows together and kind of have a video conference video chat at the same time, which is cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Are there any other tips, tools, or tricks that you ladies are using in this fun time to keep kids busy or having fun?
Wine.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that. But one thing last night we were, my husband and I think it was Lauren that mentioned the anxiety thing earlier. We have that too. And so we were trying to decompress at the end of our day, and I was sitting in our backyard and my kids were screaming and being, highly obnoxious. And, part of me I'm like, this is not helping my anxiety right now. This is making it worse. But then another part of me, I was like, you know what? We need to focus on the good things. And I started in my mind, I was like, let me focus on the good stuff. We're all healthy. My family's here. We have this backyard to play in. I'm sitting in a freaking hot tub, for crying out loud. We have all these good things. My laundry isn't as much as it was. And I would, just back when we had all these busy things, even though I loved it, we were also like rushed like crazy. It was like, stuff the sandwich in your face so we can get to soccer. And then we were rushing to Boy Scouts, and I was a den leader, and I was like always stressed, trying to get this lesson for all these other kids, and rushing to, track practice and these meets that were at this whole other school. And, we'd get home at like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, just, a shell of ourselves, like all exhausted. And we don't do that though now, because we can't. But in some ways I'm like, wow, this is kind of nice. I can sit here because I'm not at soccer practice, I'm not at this track meet, and I just try to like remind myself that there is this like silver lining in all of this. And in some ways I think this is kind of bringing us closer together. Veeam is a global company, I have a global role, and I think it was Sarah that said this earlier. Every person on earth that I speak to is going through this. If you're in Kuwait, Norway, I mean, it just really doesn't even matter. They are all going through this exact thing. And of all the things to bring us together, this is kind of a bummer, but nonetheless, it totally, I think, has brought us together just as humans. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, the ability to show empathy.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Extraordinary.
Just this out there, the one thing Lydia and I have really tried to do at night too is say prayers before we go to bed, and just talk about what we're thankful for and grateful for, and the things we do have, not what we don't have. Because she is showing anxiety. In the last couple nights, she was in tears kind of going to bed, and so that has been a way to kind of, I think, soften her anxiety a little bit as well, because as a mom, you just want to take that away. And so really going over the things that we do have and that we're thankful for, and just thanking God for those before bed. It's something we've added. We really didn't do that before, but I feel like that's been a huge help to.
I wrote that one down. Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah, that's good.
There's a study somewhere that actually says gratitude has a larger effect on life expectancy than like smoking and being grateful.
Wow.
It's a really interesting article. I'll see if I can share it with you guys so you can share it with your folks.
Yeah, we'll post this on our blog and resource center. We'll actually, if we can find that article, we'll include that there too. I might also go ahead.
Being gentle with yourself.
I was going to say, let it go has been my motto. Like, let the dishes go, let the mess go. And then Lauren, you said earlier how you're listening to podcasts or audiobooks, and giving time for yourself. I found that just putting on some upbeat music changes my mood. And I didn't discover it until like 5 days into this somehow. Just music, and just like making my workspace more lively, like adding plants and, just things to remind me that life is good and it's okay and we'll get through this.
I make my office more peaceful now. So I'm doing like spa music or meditation music in the background, and I've got a little diffuser, and I'll do gentle lights. And for the short period of time where I get to be quiet and alone in here, it's heaven. And then I'll do upbeat music in the morning. We'll do dance parties while we're getting breakfast ready, which is fantastic. But then by the end of the day, when I've kicked them outside, and Daddy's done that for me, like I find that it's too much. I'm like so overstimulated that the other day, you guys will laugh at this. You try to find something that matches your mood, like, hey, Alexa, play Ed Sheeran, which she's going to do now in the background. But like I couldn't even handle that. I wound up with Norah Jones. Matched my mood. Like, that is party music right there. Do you guys remember Norah Jones? It's like right on the brink of depression kind of quiet music. And then the kids came in and the dogs came in, and then everybody got in my space, and I was like, I can't handle it.
I've had a few of those moments too, but I think I actually did that out loud as opposed to
I do every time.
Yeah,
every time. 100%. These are the Calgon moments. Yeah.
Scream once a day. Meagan, we might want to add that to the advice. Scream out loud once a day to let it go.
That's a good one.
So what other funny stories have happened in this new space of ours?
Yelling at the dog, not on mute.
Yeah, I was on a call this week and with my boss, and he's in France, and I'm just blabbing away, and my kid in the background is singing, but his singing sounds like, an animal has been injured, or he was like scream singing. And I'm just, because I'm used to it, and my boss was like, do you need to check on your child? Is your child injured, And I was like, no, he's fine. He's just singing. But for that moment, my boss, I think, imagined that I was just completely disregarding like a disaster in the background. And I thought, oh, geez, here we go. But, when I told him he was just singing, then he was like, oh, okay. But yeah, we've had a couple of those moments. The funniest thing, though, that I think, I don't know if you guys do this, and I try to be careful with my social media, but I've been on Twitter a lot lately, and I see everybody's work from home videos, and this actually happened with my husband and I. People will be on their videos, and then the spouse is like trying to crawl behind because they're trying to go to the kitchen or something. And this happened with my husband, and I walked into the kitchen, and he works for Tech Data, which I used to work for, and so did Melissa. And so a lot of the people on the call I knew. So as I was walking by, of course, I was like, "Hey, y'all," and it was just kind of funny. But those kind of things, they happen quite often.
I love that they're happening to everybody, though.
Oh yeah.
Like I used to be more careful. If anything, it's gotten easier with that, right? Like
totally,
everybody's
like
dog
forgiving.
is gonna bark.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of been able to just chill out about that. And work from home, let's be honest, it's been like jammies on the bottom, something nice on top.
Right.
Now everybody is. So I find like I'm wearing t-shirts and stuff more often, and that's a little easier.
Oh yeah, I have on these white trash cutoff jean shorts, but
fantastic. It's all good.
My daughter had a Zoom gymnastics meeting with her team, and so I go, she was in t-shirt and sweatpants or something. I go, no, you got to put on my blazer. So I made her put on the blazer for her meeting. She's like, I don't get it. And I'm like, it's funny to me. I'm gonna take a picture.
My kid today is actually right now in a tank top, and she's in pajama bottoms. I'm like, I thought you were getting dressed. She's like, well, I got dressed on the top. I'm like,
that's what mom does.
Fair enough.
To be honest, my boys have been in underwear every single day. So Erika, you were talking about that. And
yes,
like the most I have to do is like, honey, that might be able to walk by itself. Could we change those undies? And but it's hard to get like, and I'm fine with it. Like, Steve was talking about, we better get them dressed for yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, really? Isn't that just one thing we can let go?
And they never wear shirts. No one in my house besides me wears shirts. And it really blows my mind. But you know what? Fine. Less laundry.
Well, and I was always like, when I went into the office, I mean, I wouldn't even wear ripped jeans. And we have a weekend casual dress code, but I was brought up in the school of thought, like even in jeans, you still dress it up a little bit. And the other day I realized I was in like a hoodie sweatshirt and yoga pants for my team meeting. And I'm like, well, this is now the new normal.
Like Courtney says, let it go.
Yeah.
So I had to record a video for a client God, I'm messing this one up. Sorry, everybody. I was recording a video for an email that's going out to all of our folks at Factor 8 and Girls Club. And like, there wasn't time for a million takes. It was like, F it, this is going to get done once and it's going to happen. And the boys came in the room. And so I was like, yeah, okay. So I'm sending out an email today to everybody on our list with a kid wrapped in a towel, hair, like they're starting the video. And I'm like, done. You know what? I think everybody understands. And frankly, I'm embracing that a little bit. I may be taking it a little too far. I showed up for a meeting with wet hair this week and I was like, is what it is.
Well, I definitely think there's a space for professionalism, and I think people are still, they're doing that. But yes, it's definitely more relaxed, and it reminds me of that guy that was on doing his video conference, and his kid walked in, and then his mom or wife, the famous one. And nowadays, because we all felt that, at that time, we were like, oh, good grief, here I'm in this meeting and your kid walks in, you're like, ooh. But now it is absolutely more relaxed. And I saw that he made another video, this time more obviously embracing, with the child and everything. And it's just, that is like the quintessential, this is exactly how that has changed, that guy's reaction.
And I don't think it'll go all the way back. And I like that. I think that we, especially as working moms, get a little uptight or embarrassed about being ourselves, right? We didn't talk all the time about our kids. We tried to keep them quiet all the time, especially with bosses or clients or something like that. And it's been this great equalizer and great normalizer. And I hope the pendulum doesn't go back all the way, and I don't think it will.
I agree.
Lauren, you bring up a great point. I have a new boss. He just started weeks ago. And so I've had very limited interaction with him. And I'm on like my second one-on-one with him. And my daughter's like refusing to leave the room. And I'm like, Lydia, go, go, go. And, you know, he proceeded to strike up a conversation with her, which I was like, you know, thank goodness he's, you know, embracing this. But I'm just sitting there, you're like, oh my gosh, what is happening right now? I can't even have a one-on-one with my boss, and now she's hungry.
And there she is. I heard lunch. Hi, Lydia.
My coworker's here. Hi.
Lunch. Lauren, I like how you said there's still a space for professionalism, or someone said there's still a space, Erika, yeah, for professionalism in all of this, because on one hand, I'm like, oh my gosh, thank goodness we're all able to wear casual clothes and like let our kids pop in, and that is starting to be a new normal. And I do hope it doesn't go back, but at the same time, I think the new professionalism is being understanding of what's going on and being courteous and considerate of people's outside world. And we needed that even before, you know. I think we all needed a little bit more of that, especially for parents or any external situation. Like, that is part of being a professional, is saying, you know what, that doesn't hurt how I view you in any way, shape, or form. I know you can still get good work done, and I know that you care, and I know that things happen, you know?
It's helping us all embrace authenticity a little bit. We're showing our whole selves, and I think that's okay.
Brene Brown.
Yeah, right. Right. How was potty time, by the way? We saw you disappear.
It's a thing. I don't know. It's good. She's so great about telling me, and I don't want to ignore that, because you're not really supposed to ignore that. So it's good. It's a process. It takes a while. It's a whole thing.
2 is still pretty teeny, honestly, but I think girls are a little different than boys. I had boys, and I feel like they were potty trained when they were like 7 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, she's 2.5. We thought about waiting, but she was ready. It's actually been pretty good. I think the hardest part is that she's just lacks coordination and can't take her clothes off herself.
Yeah.
I feel that way sometimes.
I think that just to all your ladies' points, this is sort of, when there's a dog barking in the background, when there's a baby crying, it's sort of a badge of honor. And like, I think it was Lauren who said it's a vulnerability. I love that. And I'm almost wondering, because I'm the same way when I worked from home, when I work, and I hear my kid in the background, I get tense and uptight. And I'm wondering how much of that is actually just mom guilt, you know, that we like put that on ourselves. Because when I used to work with a team in India, they would always have their families in the background. And in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that. That's wonderful. And so when I see it happening to someone else, I'm always so forgiving of that person. But when it's happening to me, I am just like, I'm going to kill my child and just freaking out.
Yeah, Meagan, that's really telling, isn't it? That it's, right? How, are we easier on ourselves? Courtney, didn't you say be gentle with yourselves a little bit? And why are we always so afraid to hide that? You know, it's like we're supposed to carry all of it, and we're supposed to do it seamlessly and invisibly. And, you know, I don't know that I had many male colleagues even before this, like try to hide that, right? If their kids were there, their kids were there. They weren't going to feel ashamed about it. They were going to feel embarrassed about it. But you're right on. Guilt is, I mean, we have the market cornered on guilt. The uterus is actually lined with guilt. I don't know if it's or not. I will look for the study and post it down below. I'm kidding. But one of the things, here's the one tip that does that for me, and I think you guys already have that down, but just to be really clear, when I'm most stressed out is when I'm trying to do both at once, or when I don't have something defined. And it really helped my peace of mind to just block it out that says, right, 6:30 until 9, mom time. So then I wasn't also, and I won't open it. I won't do email. I won't take calls. When I can just focus on mom, I love it. When I'm doing even 10% or 30% background work, answering texts, we all know what it is. My stress goes through the roof, and I don't do either of them well. And it pisses me off. So the more we can structure, even though it's not necessarily a tight schedule, it's almost for me, a mental focus or permission.
Yeah. We actually created a platform within Microsoft Teams with our company to try to share some of these experiences that we're having. So we created channels that's like, my kids are driving me nuts, calling all dogs, cats, pets, birds, fish, staying active, workout routines, what are we binge watching? We're going to do a virtual happy hour later. So we're creating something where we're going, oh my gosh, not only are we hearing it, but we're seeing it. And it's, oh, we did a challenge where kids had to write or videotape what they thought you did for a living. So it's really neat because our company's experience where some people are having like significant downtime, but other people are a little busy. So how can we continue the engagement and recognize there's some areas of personal growth and experiences, challenges that we're all sharing. So that's a great thing to do. So if you guys can implement something like that, it's a lot of fun. We learn a lot. One of our lawyers cooks French baguettes, apparently.
Well, I do like that idea. I was going to say, we have a Tampa team lunch, and we turned it into a virtual happy hour. So we're trying to do those type of things. We have a lot of Veeamers here in the area. But I think the biggest thing for me, when Lauren was and Courtney brought up something that I think my biggest issue that I just now put together, is just the sense of lack of control. And, even when, like, I just had to get up just now to yell at my kids who are playing with their Nerf guns right outside my door. And, I'm sitting here trying to be like, this is fine. They're children. They're fine. But it's like, they're all this noise. It's like killing me, even though you guys may not even like hear it. But to me, like, it's, was like stressing me out. And because I feel like I can't control what's happening out there, and I can't control what's happening in our world. And I also cannot control what's happening, with even my Publix up the street, right? It's very, that feeling, I think, is just can be just consuming and can be so overwhelming. But I love the piece about being gentle with yourself, because I think that's a good reminder. You can't control this, but what you can control is maybe in this little small area, and you can control how you react to it. And, the listening to music and the reading the books and going for walks and all those things helps you kind of just control the little pieces that you can, and that can bring you peace. That can help me.
I can't tell you how beneficial this has been for my inner sanctum today. Like, you ladies have no idea, this webinar was a godsend I didn't even know I needed. So thank you for that.
And did we not need any more proof that women are amazing?
Right?
Like, if there was ever, COVID, you put a stamp in that even more. It's like, I know women who are waking up at 4 a.m. to get all their work done before they have to get their kids up, and then staying up in the hours of the night, and it's extended our day in a lot of ways. And others are, not as busy and trying to deal with the mental capacity that takes up. But it's just, women are powerful, and I've just been so amazed and inspired as well, Melissa. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Melissa, for reaching out to me. I appreciate it. Always lovely to hear from you, but it was, I told Kevin, I was like, guess who reached out to me? Guess what I'm going to do? And of course he's like, what are you talking about? I don't, maybe men do this secretly, but I think it's been nice.
My best girlfriend is going crazy because her husband's at home now, and he's kind of a social animal, and she likes the solitude. So, she's trying to watch like this one segment she watches every night at 5:30, and he pauses it every 3 seconds and wants to talk about it. And like, he needs the social outlet, but doesn't have it right now. Right. And so, you're talking about women, we reach out and we help each other when you create things like this, Meagan and Melissa, so that we can. And like, I feel like I need to dial the phone for my husband and for her and just like hand it, like, call someone.
Yeah. You almost forget that you can pick up the phone and call somebody, because in our society we text so much, and we do so much in email. And it's like you almost forget that you have that function on your phone. And I told my kids the other day, I was like, why don't you call grandma? And they did, and they were like blabbering away for like 20 minutes, and she like loved that, because in her generation they would do that, chit chat on the phone all the time. And it's kind of funny, you forget that that's like that you can call people.
I hear a lot of people talking about that this is giving them excuse to reach out to family and friends and FaceTiming and
Yeah.
do more of that interaction. But I find something weird that's the opposite. We take a lot of walks, like we said, out here in Phoenix, and I love seeing all the families. There's bike rides and dogs and blah 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 blah. But the funny thing is, like, it's almost like in our brain it's black or white. Like we can interact or we can't, right? So not many people are talking to each other out there. You know what I mean? Like, we're on different sides of the street. I'm saying hi to strangers, which embarrasses the crap out of my kids. And and trying to interact, and they're almost like heads down, like we can't talk. I'm passing you in the grocery store. It's okay. We're both already here. You can open up a little bit. It's almost like we've gotten ourselves into bubbles, and the longer it goes on, the bubbles thicken a little bit. And I'm trying to watch that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I actually have noticed the opposite here, but I live in a small town, and Melissa also lives here in the area, so maybe she feels like this. But I live in Dunedin and Florida, and I noticed that when we're out for walks, I actually notice people are more chit-chatty than I've ever seen. We'll be walking by, and everyone's like, "Hi, hello," and of course we're 6 feet away, but it's almost like you can see they're like, "Oh my God, a person! Hey, how are you? Oh my goodness!" And I'm like,
yeah,
"Know you," but, and so I actually I was warmed by that, and I think someone was saying, I think it was you, Lauren, about your son bringing joy to Walmart. My kids, they're very, because I'm very, hey neighbor, whatever, and my son talks to everybody. And in Florida here, we have a tremendous older population. And I know probably in Phoenix too, goodness, it's like another retirement capital of the world. But so we have a lot of older people that are walking, and my son is always, saying hello to them. And it really does like brighten their day. But it's interesting. I even said something to my husband. I was like, gosh, everyone's super friendly and chatty lately. And I think it's because we almost feel like we have to avoid them physically, but we want to make up for that because we don't want to be like a jerk. So we're all like trying really hard to just say hi to everybody, and which I don't know. I hope that stays. I hope that's something that remains in the neighborhood.
I've heard even New York is friendly.
Yeah,
I bet.
Someone compared this whole phenomenon to like, now you understand how dogs feel and why they run to a window when they see someone and start barking.
I can see that.
Awesome.
Oh, okay.
That is a brilliant comparison.
Fair. Absolutely fair.
Well, I thank you, ladies. We went way past the time I expected to go. I don't want to take any more of your time. This went so wonderfully. We were talking about having a second installment, so stay tuned. We might have one. And if anything, just like everyone has been saying on this call, hopefully this makes the world a little bit warmer, and hopefully moms can stop beating up on themselves and be a little more gentler with themselves. And just like Courtney said, let it go. But if there are any parting thoughts, let's try to wrap that up in the next 5 minutes.
One thing I was going to say is, one, this has made me appreciate having a partner, and I know not everybody has that. And so I'm really trying harder to be more appreciative of him. And the other thing I think has been difficult is the lack of physical touching with your friends. And I have to remind myself at home, like, I can still touch the people at home. And I know this seems like such a silly thing. You guys probably think I'm a little wacko, but it's, we see our friends, and we're a very like touchy, huggy group. And, we see them everyone keeps their distance. We drive by in our golf carts at the end of the driveways and just, kind of wave to each other on the porches. And at home though, I'm trying to okay, I can hug my kid because we've only been here for the last 15 days. So I think that, and to really make sure that your partner and those that you are living with, that you feel like you can touch physically, that you still do that, not just for them, but also for you, because it can really, I think, impact you, not when you are lacking the social, but also that, that physical reminders, that you're touchable and that you're loved and people have affection towards you. So that kind of appreciation and how poignant it is right now, I think is probably a good thing for us to remember and carry on after all this kind of settles.
Erika, one thing I'd add to that is also just that checking in with each other, in your own home, and having that understanding that you could be dealing with it completely differently than your partner or spouse or child. I, for one, so I think someone was mentioning the introverted, extroverted partners, Lauren, and I'm the flip of that. And so my husband gets home and I'm like, please talk to me. And he's like, do not talk to me. And even with my mom, who doesn't live with us, but she's on a part of a crisis management team and had to go into overdrive working 15-hour days to help people around the globe, enable them to, and I couldn't understand why she couldn't talk to me, and I needed to talk about how I was feeling, and she didn't have time to talk about how she was feeling. And I needed to be a little bit more empathetic to that, how her situation and feelings were completely different than mine.
Great point.
Don't be afraid to say no. Be patient with everyone in your family, including yourself, and enjoy the silver linings that are there, because they are there. And little side note, just for me, I have to stay away from the social media about this particular thing, because it is eating me from the inside, whether it's positive, negative, or whatever. I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
That's a great point. All right. Well, thank you, ladies. Again, you each have had such valuable insight and have been wonderful to talk to. Hopefully, I know our audience will find this valuable. And stay tuned. There might be a part 2. So thank you. And from everyone here and everyone at Validity, stay safe and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I learned so
Bye.
much from you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all for being
Happy Friday, everybody.
Thank
No
you.
guilt
Happy Friday.